Okay, can I welcome everyone here to the Planning Committee for Thursday, the 14th of January. We are remotely on screen, and can I ask Jackie to just take us through the regulations? Why? Thank you.
Chair, I'm just going to say that this meeting will be held in accordance with the Coronavirus Act in relation to local authorities and Police and Crime Commissioner meetings. In other words, any decisions made at this meeting will be valid. And the meeting is also held in accordance with Appendix 11 of the Council's Constitution, which relates to the Planning Applications Committee's policy and procedures and delegations.
Thank you very much for that. If we move on to the agenda, and the first one is apologies for absence.
We've had apologies from Councillor Huntley. Councillor Kate Oliver is his substitute. All other members are present. Apart from Councillor Sands is not present.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, anyone? See no one waving. Thank you. Move on. Minutes of last meeting. Do we agree they're correct record for those who are here? Thank you.
No,
we'll
Chair. No.
Yes, Councillor Neil.
Page 9, the last paragraph. It was to do with the community hospital agreeing to keep all residents informed about the development there. And the second sentence says this has been required as part of the community hospital scheme in his ward. It wasn't a requirement of the planning. It was a privately negotiated agreement the ward councillors had with the chief exec that they would do this for us and the residents.
Okay, I'm not sure about that. Jackie?
Well, I just record what is said at the meeting, you see, and it was just, you know, it was just said, it was as it came out of the planning application. So, I mean, do we really need to, you know, it?
I don't think it needs to be recorded, but Councillor Neil's mentioned it anyway.
What I will do is I would just put that it was negotiated with the chief exec of the hospital.
Actually, I think it's the manager there. I don't know if that was
between the hospital and local ward councillors.
Yeah,
and I'll just put a footnote. I'll put a footnote to that effect, so that. But
just in case, because I don't think that's as a condition.
In case we ever need to call on local ward councillors to do that again.
Okay, I've got two more points. One from Councillor Lovick and one from Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Lovick.
Chair, Councillor Lovick has gone mute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're there now, Judith.
Right, thank you. That was the problem I had at the last meeting, and I wanted it. This isn't part of the minutes, but I do want to reiterate the note that I sent to you, Keith, as Chair of Planning at the end of the last meeting. I just would like to say to the members that I apologise for my comments at the end of that last meeting. They weren't meant to be heard by anybody, and I do apologise for any distress I caused to members as a result of those comments.
Thank you, Councillor Lovick, for that. Councillor Maxwell.
Just that last note about Councillor Neil brought up. I don't remember that being said at the meeting, so should we include it in the minutes?
Chair, Chair,
I don't think it is included, is it?
Chair, can I just suggest we put it there for accuracy, because it's just a clarification on a point. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. We move on now to planning applications, and the first one is 4A, and it's the land north of 13 to 46 Lakenfields. And I believe that Maria's taking us through this. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So the application concerns land to the north of 13 to 46 Lakenfields. That's the land outlined here in red. It's at the northeastern extent of Lakenfields, which is to the east of Long John Hill and City Road. The application site occupies this land to the north of 13 to 46 Lakenfields, which is also known as Webster Court. That's a residential home managed by St Martin's Housing Trust. The application site forms a section of unadopted road which loops around here and has parking surrounding it that serves Webster Court for its staff and residents. The application site also includes a section of road here which is also unadopted, and there's a no-through road that leads up to Harriet Court here. Harriet Court is an extra care housing development managed by Broadland Housing Association. There's an area of woodland here which separates the application site from Harriet Court, and that wood forms part of the larger County Hall Wood site over to the east, which is designated as County Wildlife Site. Both Webster Court here and Harriet Court to the north are largely two-storey buildings with some taller sections. The dwellings on Lakenfield are largely semi-detached pairs of dwellings, 2 stories in height. There's a garage block serving those here. And at the very southern end of Lakenfield, out of the picture here, there are 3-storey blocks of flats within landscape grounds. Just outside the application site here, there's an air quality monitoring station. That's an automatic monitoring station operated by DEFRA, and it records the urban background level of air quality in this area. And along the southern boundary of the site, there's a footpath here which leads into County Hall Woods, giving access through the County Hall site towards Brackendale. This is the proposed site plan, and it's proposed to redevelop the site with 6 one-bedroom flats. This is a scheme which has been devised by Broadland Housing Association in partnership with the City Council, and has government funding which has been released as part of the government's COVID-19 rough sleeper response strategy. Broadland Housing Association are proposing to offer the 6 one-bedroom flats for affordable rent. So those flats would occupy a 3-storey building across this axis of the site. The roadway here to Webster Court would be retained and would be provided with the new turning head at this end of the site, and 3 parking spaces here would serve the proposed flats. There would also be a cycle store within a secure area of the site here, and a communal patio within the external amenity space that extends across the northern part of the site. Over in this corner, there would be a bin store that would be accessed from the access road to Harriet Court that would be retained as it is, and 7 parking spaces are proposed to be provided along the western side of the site. They would be replacement parking for the staff and residents of Webster Court. A hedge and signage is proposed around these parking spaces. The signs would remind drivers to switch their engines off in order to protect the amenity of neighbouring dwellings to the side here, and also the levels recorded by the air quality monitoring station. New landscaping is proposed throughout the site, which would include a tree at the front corner here, areas of shrub planting around the building, and also climbing plants on some of the boundary treatments. These are the proposed floor plans. On each floor there would be 2 one-bedroom flats either side of a communal stair core with access from covered walkways to the rear. The government funding which has been made available for this project has very short timescales associated with it, and would actually require delivery of this project by the end of March this year. In order to meet those tight timescales, a modular construction method is proposed. That gives the same layout on the ground floor, first floor, second floor here, and on the roof plan you can see that there would be pitched roofs over the flats each side and a flat roof over the stair core and access to the rear. In terms of elevations, this is what the development would look like. This is the south elevation at the top here, which would be the elevation facing towards Webster Court. This would include window openings to bedrooms and also open plan living accommodation at each level. The elevations are proposed to be finished in a buff brick under a tile effect roof with composite cladding to the stair core. On the north elevation facing towards the woodland, the stair core would open out to these covered walkways, giving access to the front door of each flat. And on the side elevations, you would have a window to the open plan living accommodation in each flat. And these drawings show the proposed height relative to, sorry, just going back. These drawings show the proposed height here relative to the height of Webster Court to the side here, and the dwellings on Lake and Fields in the background here. And on this drawing here, you can see an approximation of how the site would be surrounded by the woodland in views from the south. So moving on to photos of the site, this is standing at the end of Lake and Fields, looking towards the application site. Here you can see the closest neighbouring dwelling and its 2-storey height to the side. And over on this side, you have Webster Court. This tree on the corner here is outside the application site and would be retained and protected as part of the development. Moving into the site itself, here you can see the road which loops around here, serving Webster Court, and parking which exists on the grass verges around that road. That parking is all private and is only for staff and residents of Webster Court. In the background here, you can see the footpath which leads through into County Hall Woods and the woodland that provides the background to the site to the east and north. Standing towards the northern side of the site, here again looking across, you can see how it's used for parking at the moment, and you can see the window and door openings on Webster Court. This is part of the residential accommodation within that building, which face towards the application site. And then standing in a similar position, but looking over to the western boundary, this area of grass is where the proposed 7 parking spaces for the staff and residents of Webster Court are proposed to be relocated to. You can see the neighbouring dwelling here, which has windows on its both side and rear elevations, which overlook the site. In the far background of the site here, you can just make out the 3-storey blocks of flats towards the southern end of Lake and Fields. And then in the corner here, you can see the air quality monitoring station. And this photo is taken standing in the southeast corner of the site with our back to the footpath into the County Hall Woods. Again, you can see Webster Court here, the existing access and parking arrangements, the woodland to the side, and the neighbouring dwellings on Lake and Field in the background. The proposed flats would run across the site approximately here, with a replacement turning head and parking serving the flats to this side of the site. In terms of assessment, you'll note in the updates report that there have been additional representations which have been received since the report was written. These largely reiterate the concerns from other objections about the scale of development, the impact on the county wildlife site, landscaping, parking and traffic, and amenity. There is a full assessment of the proposal in your report. It is recognised that this development does represent a larger scale and more intense use of this land, which is in proximity to neighbouring occupiers and designated woodland. However, it is considered to be both a more efficient and beneficial use of the land than its current use for access and parking, and it makes acceptable provision for replacement parking for Webster Court and would not harm highway safety for other users. As set out in your report, the proposal is considered to be acceptable in all other respects and is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions in the report.
Thank you, Miriam, for that. We've got no speakers on this case. We have got the agent here, but he's not allowed to speak at the moment. We'll just move on to questions. Can I ask a question first? The entrance hall bit where they go in and then upstairs to their front door to go in, is there any lock on the door? Is there any entrance locks or anything? Because in the area we do have trouble with people going in those at night time.
That level of detail hasn't been specified in the planning application, but I would expect the Broadland Housing Association managing it to have arrangements in place.
Can we make sure they have arrangements? Well, can we put that into the plans or not?
To put that into a condition, it would need to be necessary to make the development acceptable in planning terms and relevant to planning. I'd suggest that an informative note and liaising with the agent and applicant would be the best way to secure that.
Okay, thank you. Can you put us to all screens so we can see everyone, so I can see everyone what I'm asking the questions? That's all right, no problem.
Could somebody remind me how to do that, please?
No idea.
There should just be a red button that says stop sharing my screen.
think right at the top of the screen, Maria.
Oh, sorry, got that now. Thank you.
You're there. Fantastic. I've got Paul. These are questions to.
Chair, can I just say Councillor Sands has joined the meeting, or should have done, but I won't be able
Yep.
to participate in the voting of this, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Neil first, then Councillor Ryan, and then Councillor Boogaline.
The parking arrangements, Marie, you said that there's been an assessment that you've got 7 places there. But just on those photographs that you just showed us, there was at least 10 cars with space for more. So I just wondered how they did the assessment. If you've got a photograph there that's got, 30% more cars already.
There is capacity for approximately 15 cars there, although spaces aren't sort of individually demarcated. The parking survey that was done was undertaken at different times of the day, sort of early in the morning, midday, later in the day, and over both weekends and weekdays. And that recorded a maximum of 7 or 8 cars there at any time. The application has been developed with regards to the needs of Webster Court, and there are other measures in place to control any parking which, if this development were to result in sort of overflow parking elsewhere, there are existing satisfactory measures in place to prevent that being displaced onto neighbouring roads or elsewhere to cause any problems.
Okay.
Councillor Ryan? You're on mute, Councillor. You're still on mute, Roger. Roger, you're on mute.
Here we are. You can hear me now, whether you want to or not. Maria, can you just clarify for me, funding for this project, is it coming wholly from the government?
I'm not sure whether it's wholly, but it is certainly as a result of government funding, and the land is currently owned by the City Council and would be disposed of to Broadland Housing Association for this.
So are we putting some money in as a City Council, or is it just the land we're giving? What's the arrangement?
I'm afraid I don't know that level of detail about the finance behind it.
Okay, I'm trying to find out. Is it going to cost us any money? Is what I'm trying to find out.
The use of this funding was considered by Cabinet in October, and the agreement to dispose of the land subject to a resolution for planning permission was agreed at Cabinet in October.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Councillor Boogaline.
Could you give me a little bit more information about the landscaping around the back? So the one concern I have is if it's kind of, if you've got like a dingy corner next to a path that leads through. I mean, I'm just concerned that it could be a antisocial behaviour hotspot. Could you just clarify a little bit around the lighting there and how they envision that this amenity space is being used?
So the amenity space would be for residents only, and it would be enclosed by walls and fences, so it would be private and secure. There are some areas of seating that would be proposed within that area, and there is lighting around the access points. But because of the proximity to the woodland and the potential for bats to be roosting and using the woodland, then it's a very sensitive lighting scheme that's concentrated around the access points. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Any more questions to the planner? Okay, we'll move on. I'm going to move the recommendation. The recommendation is to approve, and I'll move that. If I have a seconder, please. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. And we move on to discussion. Any discussions on Councillor Stuteley?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Maria, for the report. I just want to say that I support this application. We need properties of this kind, especially where they're partly funded by the government. And the means of construction, modular, is an excellent way forward, environmentally friendly as well. So I support it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Ryan and then Councillor Samaisi.
Yeah, could I just echo those comments from Councillor Stuteley? This particular accommodation is much needed in Norwich. It will take a bit of work to get it all completed in time. I'm sure it will be done in time, but it looks a very efficient, it looks a very beneficial project, and I'm right behind it. I'm glad to hear it's taking place.
Councillor Samaisi.
Similar sentiments from me. It is quite a compact area, but it's some lovely woodland near there. And I think it's a nice setting, and I think it's a great initiative, and let's hope we can get some people that are rough sleeping accommodated sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Councillor Bergeline.
I also think that it's maybe not the most beautiful of schemes, but it's in a great surrounding area, so it will be, you know, for residents, it will be a nice place to be. And I think it's really impressive that they're aiming to deliver it in the timescales they've been given, which is, you know, near impossible timescales, which I never understand why we have to pump out something within 2 months. But there we are. So you know, I mean, that is really impressive and commendable, and I think it's a great scheme to support.
Councillor Lovick. You there, Judith?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
No, you just muted yourself again.
Oh.
You're off again. No, you're all right now.
Right. Good. I'll say it quickly. I do echo your concerns, Keith, about the access arrangements to the block of flats. Whoever these flats are for, and obviously they are for sort of vulnerable people, any block of flats should have secure access arrangements. We've gone to great lengths to look after the bats. We've gone to great lengths to make sure there's mammal sort of arrangements for mammals to go between fences and such like. And we really ought to be sure that there are keypads so that access is restricted to only those people who are living there or are visitors there. And I think in schemes where vulnerable people have been housed, perhaps in some of our sheltered housing schemes, where there aren't keypads, they have had unwelcome visitors. So I really do think it's a very important aspect of this application that the access arrangements are secure. But I'm glad that it's...
Thank you, Judith.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Lovick there. I think the architect or the developer ought to take this away and make sure there is something done with this exit doors, because in other parts of Lakenham, not far away, we do have trouble with people going into these places in the evening. And if these are going to be vulnerable people going in there, and we've got a vulnerable place dead opposite as well in St Martin's Housing Trust, where there was a bit of controversy about that, which turns out to be a fantastic place to be put in there instead of an old people's home, which that wasn't very good at when it was changed. So I'm definitely in favour of this. I think the only thing I was worried about was the door entrance. Councillor Ryan's thing about will this cost us money? I think this will actually save us money a lot for not putting people into hotels and other bits and pieces while we're looking for accommodation. So I think this is a win-win situation. And as soon as they can get them up, I mean, they're going to build them all site and just bring them in and open them up, by the sounds on it. So this sounds really good. So I should definitely be voting in favour of this, and I know it's in my ward, and I think that'd be very much appreciated. Councillor Neil.
Yeah, I'm just echoing most of the comments that have already been made. It is an excellent scheme. It's being done extremely quickly, but if you want to put it into context, I'm not sure the exact number of months, but the Empire State Building was built in, I think, 15 or 18 months. So you can do it in 2 months. And the modular build, as long as that is more towards high environmental standards, which is possible. I don't know who's making it, probably BT, I would guess, just across the road. And as far as what Councillor Lubbock said about, you know, it should be really in there now that they're going to have blocks. And but I have every confidence in St Martin's Housing that if Maria just mentions it, I would probably find that they have already agreed it anyhow. They're not stupid. They know what needs to be done with these places.
Okay, fantastic. Just to say that if we're going to build the Empire State Building in 11 months, I'm not sure if you would vote in favour. That Councillor Neil's a bit high, isn't it? Okay, no other comments.
I'm not talking about Anglia Square, Councillor.
Oh, I never mentioned it. We'll move on to the vote. The recommendation is to approve. All those in favour, please show. Yes.
I'll call names because members will need to assure
Okay,
that
no
being here for the
problem.
whole
Thank
item.
you, Jackie, for that.
Thank you. Councillor Driver.
In favour.
Thank you. And you've been here for the whole item.
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Maxwell.
You're muted, Marion.
Councillor Maxwell still mute. Sorry, I don't want to miss anybody off. So
Councillor Maxwell's disappeared. Here she comes.
She's trying to.
Yeah. If everyone can unmute before they get there, that'd be great.
Maxwell 4. I suggest everybody starts out unmuting now. Councillor Bogerline.
I was here for the whole item, and I would vote for, please.
Councillor Button.
Been here for the whole item, and I vote in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
I've been here for the whole item, and I vote in favour. Thank you.
Councillor Lubbock.
Attended for the whole item and I vote in favour.
Councillor Neil.
I was here for the whole item and vote in favour.
Councillor Ryan.
I've been here for the whole item. I'm voting in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Peake.
I've been here for the whole item and also voting in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Sands arrived during this item, so unfortunately can't vote to our rules. Councillor Samaisi.
Present throughout, voting in favour.
Thank you. And Councillor Stootley.
Thank you. Also present throughout and voting for.
Thank you very much, Chair. That is unanimous.
Thank you very much. That's been passed unanimous, and hope it's up in time. Thank you very much for that. We move on to the second application on our agenda today, which is 4B, which is the north side of Halston Hall Road, an application for, well, mainly a car park, I think. Page 41 to 72. And who's taking us through this one? Sarah?
That's me, yes. That's me.
Thank you. If you could take us through the report, please.
Yeah, I will just share my screen.
Yep.
You can see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Right, so this is land to the north side of Helsden Hall Road. So it's a, sorry, I'm a bit slow. So it's a site for the storage of operational vehicles, that's delivery vehicles, with small scale structures and associated infrastructure on a site to the northwest of Norwich. It's off Helsden Hall Road to the south here, and it's to the west of the Ring Road, which is further to the east here. But I think it's probably easier for me if I can get my computer to move on to the next slide to show you that on an aerial representation. So the application site is an L shape here. So we have Helsden Hall Road to the south. We've got the Ring Road here. We've got Turnpike Close, which is a section of new estate road, which is private estate, which comes into a new, relatively new, sort of been developed in the last 4 or 5 years, area of employment land here. So you've got a WIC site, there's a storage warehouse, car and van dealerships and rental and associated car parking. There's a couple of other sites on here that have been developed since this photograph aerial was taken. So there's a carpet warehouse under construction, and there's another van rental place. You have the existing Amazon distribution warehouse is located on the east side of the ring road. That's existing and in operation, and it has been for a number of years now. You've got that's located within the main part of the Sweetbriar industrial estate here to the east of the ring road. You have Briar Chemical site is located mainly to the south of Helsden Hall Road, but there's also a smaller site located to the north of Helsden Hall Road and directly adjacent to the application site. To the north, there's more industrial. The the Sweetbriar Retail Park. You've got the former Royal Norwich Golf Course here, which is currently has planning permission for 1,000 houses. And the closest residential properties, existing residential properties to the site are located in this cluster here. So that's Clovelly Drive, Brayford Close and Helsden Low Road. And they are located in the closest distances between 90 and 140 metres to the west of the site. All of the land to the west of this residential is allocated employment land. So I'll just run you through a few photographs to give some context of the site. So this is the Helsden Hall Road frontage looking east towards the ring road, just in the distance. So those trees are on the opposite side of the ring road. The site stands behind this boundary fence. The site doesn't come all the way up to this boundary fence. There's a section there that will provide other landscaping. So the site itself is located about between 10 and 13 metres back from this front boundary. You can see that it stands higher than Helsden Hall Road. So another photograph looking in the opposite direction. So I'm looking sort of down the road, so to speak, looking west towards Lower Helsden, and that's that same fence. This is standing at the entrance to Turnpike Close, so that new section of Estate Road, and the application site stands there in front of you. The trees there are located on the edge of the Briar Chemical site, and you can just see, which will probably be better seen on the next photograph, some structures there in the Briar Chemical site. So that's those structures. And just on the corner of the screen there is the new carpet warehouse, which is under construction at the moment. The site will be accessed from a new Estate Road spur, which will come in off this sort of rather unattractive area here, and that electricity substation that's existing will remain. Standing within the site now, the fence into Helsden Hall Road is here on the left, and the chimney to the chemical site. There, those trees I pointed out previously. And the site is covered at the moment in a mix of rough grassland and scrub. That's just a more detailed photo of the structures within the chemical site. The residential properties that I pointed out are beyond that site, beyond those trees. Again, just another photograph of the sort of tanks and silos within that site. And then looking north, photograph taken at a slightly different time of year here, you can see it's quite a large site, just over 3 hectares, but in the distance you can see structures that are on the industrial estate that exists. And that's just, as you head further north, there are some more sort of immature self-seeded trees that have taken place. So on to the site layout. So again, to give you context, Helsden Hall Road is here. Here's Turnpike Close, and there will be a new section of Estate Road that brings you into the application site. So we're just looking at things here within the red line. The entirety of the perimeter of the site will be enclosed by 2.4 metre high weld mesh fencing, green in colour. It'd be located within about 1 metre of the boundaries with Turnpike Close and the new section of Turnpike Close. But as I said previously, it'd be set back about approximately 13 metres from the Helsden Hole Road frontage. There are a small number of structures proposed within the site, which I'll show you some plans in a short while. But basically, you drive into the site, into the internal road layout. There's a set of security gates and barriers here, a small guard hut. There is then a welfare facility, cycle parking. They're dotted around the site. There are a number of electricity substations, areas of motorcycle parking. There's a small bin store. But in terms of the structures, that is the extent of those structures. The majority of the site is basically covered in a hard surfacing, a tarmac surface, and there'll be provision of 353 van parking spaces and 1 space for the guard to park. Within the proposed development, there will be a provision of 9 active electric vehicle charging spaces, and then there will be extensive subsurface infrastructure to deliver the remainder of the electric vehicle charging for the entire fleet of vehicles at a future point. So just to quickly show you a few of those structures that I mentioned, here's the guard hut. So it's a small modular building, functional, simple, single story. I think that one was dark blue in colour. The welfare facility that I mentioned, again, a similar small facility, dark grey in colour, this one, provides 3 toilets, hand washing facilities and a small sort of washing facility. And then there are a number of, I think there's 15 in total, electricity substations of varying sizes dotted around the site to bring the power into the site. And then here in the bottom corner are the posts that will be provided to each space with the electric vehicle charging infrastructure within it. So on to landscaping. I hope you can see the extent of that. It's obviously a large scale site. There's just over 3 hectares. Extensive discussions have taken place with the applicant's representatives as part of the application to secure a more comprehensive landscaping scheme, and that is what you see in front of you. It does take into account, however, the operational requirements of the site and constraints associated with provision of a lot of subsurface infrastructure, cables, ducts, etc. But there's also a requirement to provide sufficient landscaping to mitigate visual impacts of such a large-scale development and provide longer-term screening and soften and break up the extent of such a large area of hard surfacing. And that has been brought about by the introduction of more trees and landscaping areas within the site. So I'll just explain what that landscaping consists of, and then I'll just quickly show you what we started with. So basically there's the landscaping consists of a number of trees. So there's a total of 97 trees to be planted, standard and extra heavy standard, mainly native species such as oak, beech, birch, cherry, field maple, rowan, those sorts of things. So mainly along the frontage here into Turnpike Close. There's also some trees along the northern boundary. And then there are trees dotted about, along this section here and dotted around within the landscaped areas within the site in order to try and provide some structure to the landscaped area and some height, but also shading. There's approximately 750 metres of native hedgerow to be provided. So there'll be a hedgerow provided along the Turnpike Road frontage and into the site. There's then hedgerow along further north along the northern boundary, and part of the western boundary here will have hedgerow, native species hedgerow. So your hawthorn, blackthorn, that sort of mix. There's a number of shrubs provided within these beds within the site, both sort of native and some semi-ornamental shrubs. And then some of these planting beds are, at the council suggestion, will be planted with a Floratopia planting. So this is a low maintenance planting in a gravel substrate, which helps to provide, which will support drought tolerant species, and also provides localized sustainable drainage to feed into the drainage system. It also provides biodiversity benefits. And another element of the landscaping is there's a provision of a 4 metre wide landscaping belt along this section of the western site boundary. So the idea is that there's provide sufficient species diversity and structural diversity to the site. Also, the landscaping provides green infrastructure provision and enhancement. So it's providing corridors of habitat along the west, along the site frontage here, and then introduced through sort of across the narrow throat bit of the site and this north-south section here to provide some connectivity into existing habitat. So that if you remember the Royal Norwich Golf Course and quite mature planting around its perimeter up here, there's some trees already exist here. And there is actually a tree belt along Sweetbriar Road, the ring road, and it's providing connectivity through the site and through its industrial estate to those existing features. There's also, in terms of a biodiversity enhancement, there'll be provision of a couple of reptile hibernacula within this western area, and 12 bird boxes are dotted around the perimeter of the site as well. So as I mentioned, this scheme has been improved since the original submission, which looked like this. So you see it was devoid of any internal more or less any internal landscaping, and the perimeter has been bolstered up quite significantly. Sorry. So as you see from your report, there's been a number of objections from residents that are located to the west of the site, and they're within section pages 45 to 48 of your report. The neighbours' concerns have mainly surrounded traffic generation, and hopefully, as you has come across in the report, the majority of the traffic is already on this road network. The distribution warehouse is already there and in operation. This is to provide a fleet for Amazon to have its own vehicles rather than delivery drivers using their own vehicles. They have some concerns around noise, which again has been covered within the report, and the use of lighting on the site. It's a commercial area. There's, as I've demonstrated, there are a number of employment uses around in the site which are all lit during the night time, and the chemical work site is lit overnight. It is quite an intelligent lighting system is proposed, which will be dimmed after outside operating hours to 20%, and then if people enter the site after those times, it will sort of come back up to 50%, and then it will lower back down to 20%, so that it will be significantly dimmed over the nighttime period. So officers' opinion is that in terms of residential amenity, there will be no unacceptable impacts on the amenity of those residential neighbours. In the update, there are a couple of updates in the updates report that you were provided yesterday. I hope they are self-explanatory. One of the updates in there is that contact had been made by a person who's made representation previously, and I think you're about to hear a statement from that person, and there are a few modifications to the conditions. So just in conclusion then, the land is forms part of a larger employment designation, and is for a use that is functionally connected and supportive of the effective operation of an existing business on the industrial estate. It will allow the site operator Amazon to deliver a fully electric fleet of delivery vehicles by 2030 by the facility of infrastructure and a site to deliver that. We haven't got any specific policies at this point in time because our local plan sort of predates that to do with delivery of large scale electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Our policies would only really command the delivery of one space on a site like this. So it's sort of slightly forward thinking in that respect. But I think it would clearly help to support the transition to a low carbon future and reduce dependency on high emission vehicles that local and national policy supports. So these benefits that I've just highlighted there are considered to outweigh any visual or landscape amenity harm, and therefore the recommendation I set out in your report is to approve the application subject to the conditions on page 67. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. If you could put us back to main screen, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. I understand David has got a statement to read out.
I do, Chair. This is received from a member of the public who lives in the residential areas that Sarah has identified in her presentation. And the member of the public says that I had spoken with many neighbours previously, and I'm comfortable in saying that there are many of us on Brayford Close and Clovelly Drive with the same concerns. I haven't been able to speak to everyone again since we submitted initial concerns due to the new lockdown, but see no reason concerns would have changed as the planning application hasn't. Our main worries are, 1, drainage. Whilst I understand the issues raised with this have been answered in the application, it's not clear whether anyone was aware of the severe existing drainage issue on Helston Hall Road. The drain by Turnpike Close overflows and causes a large and treacherous flood frequently. With the natural ground being tarmacked over, there is concern that the dangerous issue will worsen. Second point, light pollution. There is a potential for 50% light throughout the night for a site directly next to a residential street. Even if it does not operate 24 hours, setting daytime working hours at 5 AM is far earlier than what is considered daytime hours in normal circumstances. Third point, traffic. This is the biggest concern of our neighbourhood. I note that Helston Parish Council requested that vans are only allowed to turn left out of Turnpike Close and onto the ring road. This is very much echoed by all of us and is absolutely necessary. Turning right instead means the vans go onto the low road and either over a bridge with a 3-ton weight limit, which only allows traffic in one direction at a time, or along a very narrow road, which is already overburdened with vehicles which are too large for it. Turning left out of Turnpike Close only will prevent a severe level of intrusion from the development. However, something must be done about the junction onto the ring road if this is the case. At the ring road junction, there is no filter light for those turning right, which means cars must sit in the middle of the junction and hope to get across. Adding untold numbers of vans will make this even more dangerous and clog the junction constantly. The planning application's traffic flow numbers are also clearly a drastic underestimation of actual flow through the junction. You will already have read comments from another resident on this, submitted 20th of August 2020, and their figures are far more accurate. It is our assumption that the application's numbers were taken during a lockdown in order to be so low. Overall, the residents in the area are very unhappy about this proposed development. The traffic caused is either going to go over a bridge and small road that simply can't manage it, or through a junction that will become even more dangerous. There are lots of young children and a care home directly affected, and no one wants a dangerous level of traffic destroying a peaceful area. As the people directly affected by it, we ask in the strongest possible terms that you reject this proposal. And that's the end of the statement. Thank you.
David, where am I?
We have Nick Bowen with us who can speak. I'd like to invite Nick to undo his video and
there he is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, 3 minutes, please.
3 minutes. Sorry about that, Nick. You're cut down already.
No problem. Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Nick Bowen. I'm a Senior Associate at DWD. We have worked closely with your planning officers on this application for a van storage facility which will enable the existing warehouse at Cayley Close to transition to 100% electric delivery vans. This is in line with the operator's ambitions and with the City Council's own target to become carbon neutral by 2030. The UK government strongly supports the development of infrastructure for electric vehicles as part of its planned transition to zero-emission transport, and in a recent publication has confirmed its commitment to accelerate this by bringing forward the ban on the sales of non-electric vehicles to 2030, and specifically promoting the electrification of business operating fleets. We commend your officer's report, which recommends approval of the application. However, I wanted to briefly outline the key benefits of the proposal. In designing the proposals at this allocated employment site, landscaping has been a key consideration, and following discussions with officers, significant enhancements have been made. And the landscaping scheme now supported by your officers is of exceptional quality and will strengthen the site boundaries in addition to creating attractive green areas within the site itself. The proposal also provides a number of ecological and biodiversity benefits, including bird boxes, high vernacular and rain gardens, and the provision of which exceed the minimum recommendations of the submitted ecology report. To address the public comment in the statement with respect to the impact of the proposal on the local road network, the vehicle activity associated with the proposals will already be present on the wider network, and therefore do not constitute new trips in their own right. In effect, the proposal will result in a redistribution of existing trips, and there will not be any material increase in activity on the roads within Helsdon. Based on the technical evidence contained within the transport statement, the local highway authority has concluded that the proposal is acceptable both from a vehicle access and a highway impact perspective. Specific reference is made by the local highway authority to the fact that the signalised junction on Helsdon Hall Road with Sweetbriar Road is able to accommodate the levels of traffic associated with the scheme. The public comments must therefore be viewed in the context of the wider benefits associated with the proposal, notably the electrification of delivery vehicles, which will in turn improve air quality and noise in the local area. And just to pick up the point regarding drainage, just to confirm, the drainage will not leave this site. There will be soakaways only, so there will be no issue in terms of flooding on Helsdon Hall Road. And I think as Sarah very accurately described with the lighting proposals at the site, it is a state-of-the-art system, and there will be dimming throughout the site, and we do not envisage there will be any adverse impacts in terms of light pollution. So just to conclude, the application presented to you this morning will provide a new van storage facility to support an existing employer in Norwich and facilitate its transition to a zero carbon vehicle delivery fleet. It simply wouldn't be possible to require drivers to charge vehicles overnight at their homes, and so the transition to an electric van fleet relies on storage facilities of this nature. We therefore hope that you will vote to approve your officer's recommendation and support the sustainable development proposed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Nick. Sarah, did you want to come back on anything?
You may come up with some questions yourself about in relation to the resident comments. The flooding comment about overflowing drains on Turnpike Close, I'm not aware, I wasn't aware of that, and it may be a local maintenance issue. We have consulted with the lead local flood authority on this and have looked at our surface water drainage maps, and it doesn't show that there are any known surface water flooding issues. And the lead local flood authority would have highlighted if they knew them. And the drainage for this site will be contained entirely on the site itself, so it shouldn't exacerbate any flooding issues. And then I'll wait for, I'm sure members will have questions around some of that themselves.
Thank you. I've got three councillors indicating to talk. I've got Councillor Lubbock first, Councillor Neal, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Sands, Councillor Maxwell, Councillor Berger. I'll come back to you. Well, we take Councillor Lovick first, Councillor Neil, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can't see in the list of conditions anything relating to the hours of operation. And I'm just a bit concerned that if they're not there, could it be that the hours of operation could change to even earlier than the 5 a.m.? So that's my question.
Hours of operation did come up in discussion with the applicants' representatives. They've set out that their sort of general operating hours are based on the operation of the distribution warehouse, and I think shifts there can start at 6 a.m. And therefore this facility needs to be open in advance of that. So the documentation has been put together with a sort of 5 a.m. earliest starting time, really. And that's the basis that it has been assessed. We did discuss whether or not it would be required to restrict hours of operation. They'd like to be able to have the opportunity to use the site at the latter end of the day because we all sort of realise at busy times of year we get deliveries later on into the evening. But it's never unlikely to ever be a 24-hour operation in terms of round-the-clock operation. The applicant did think it would be slightly restricted for them to operate with operating hours, and the businesses around there don't, to my knowledge, have any restrictions of operating hours, including the sort of chemical site as well. So it was in the round not considered to be necessary based on the environment in terms of it being an employment area with uses there that do have night shifts, etc.
Can I just sorry, Keith, can I just add to that? The representation, and particularly the statement from the member of the public, suggests that it's directly next. The site is directly next to residential properties. It's close to, and I think Sarah has outlined the distances in her report, but it isn't actually adjacent to. There is the part of the Sweetbriar Chemical Works between the application site and the residences, and when we were considering kind of operating hours, we kind of had to take that into consideration, and the light and the activity from that plant, and hence that's another part of the reason why operating hours are not conditioned for this particular application. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Neil.
Exactly the question I was going to ask. So I think it's been verified that basically if they want to, they can operate all these vans for 24 hours a day. I don't necessarily agree with Sarah that it's unlikely that they will. Amazon's ambitions will change dramatically, and I am sure that they will. There's a great potential that they could be aiming for a 24/7 operation. And the second one, a question I have, don't know whether you can answer it. I just want to know whether Amazon will be paying the council business rates, because they obviously don't pay capital gains tax in this country.
We can't answer the question about business rates, I'm afraid. It's not a material planning consideration. Thanks. I think, sorry, if I can just come back on Councillor Neil's statement. I mean, it is possible, question. I mean, it is possible that the site could operate 24 hours a day, but as Sarah said, and I've indicated, it's the context within which the site sits that has informed our choice not to impose an hours condition on the proposal. If members were concerned about that, then they could impose an operating hours condition on the site, but our starting position is that given the context and how the applicant has described their operations, it's not necessary. But I do accept that could change. But it is the implications of that change that you'd need to assess.
Councillor Ryan, unless Councillor Neil come back on the same question.
Yeah, well, I thank David for his answer, but I think I heard the comparison was made with other businesses in the area. Well, you can't compare it with something like Wix. I mean, we are talking about the potential for hundreds of vehicles 24 hours a day. And after the horse is bolted, I don't know, can you tell me how you can change the conditions afterwards?
Yeah.
You can't change the conditions afterwards. You would need to put a condition on, as I say, if you thought it was a problem, and taking into account the environment in which the site sits, if you thought it was a problem, you'd need to impose an operating hours condition as part of any approval, if that is what the committee is minded to do.
Thank you. Nick, I'm sorry that you are not allowed to talk anymore. Sorry about that. We've got Councillor Berger. No, Councillor Ryan, then Councillor Bergerline.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very interested in the potential of this site to generate electrical energy, because when it is fully up and running, and if it is full of electric vehicles, as Amazon is promising, there's going to be a potential here to produce an awful lot of electrical energy, which will be able to be sent back to the grid. Now, I just wondered if somebody could confirm with me here whether there is vehicle to grid technology infrastructure being put into the site. I mean, the initial plan is just for 9 electric vehicles. I mean, what is going in with this, and how can the Amazon build on this to make full use of the electricity which is going to be available? Can anybody help me with this?
The basis that the application has been put to us is it's taking electricity from the grid, so it's, and that will be taking by 2030, by its commitment, it will be taking renewable sources of energy from the grid, and it's just, as far as I'm aware, it's a standard. There would be a lot of cabling and ducting underneath the site that will connect to above ground posts that connect to the vehicles, and my understanding is there's no provision within the application as it exists to feed anything back, if you see what I mean. So it's a fairly standard setup in that respect.
I'm a bit surprised to hear that, because the technology is available to do that already, and there's battery technology available which could make this site generate an awful lot of electricity which could be sent back to the grid. It's there, the technology is there. I'm surprised it's not here and suggested.
Okay, we're getting into statements after questions by everyone now. We just had a question and you can make a statement later. Councillor Bergerline next. I have got everyone, by the way.
Can I just quickly say that would just store energy, it wouldn't create energy. That's the whole idea.
The vans create the energy.
And that's another discussion, not for today's planning committee.
So, so my question's around the lighting, and I guess it comes back to the operating hours. And so it says that the lighting kind of goes down to 20%, and then when someone enters, it kind of goes up to 50%. And by the time at 5 a.m., that changes, I'm assuming, to sort of whatever's needed, but if it's in winter, 100%. I mean, I agree that 5 a.m. is awfully early. And I was wondering, considering that they, in their statement, they anticipate that it's kind of only a few early arrivals that are there between 5 and 6 a.m., whether this arrangement of having lighting dimmed down to 20% and then go up to 50% could be extended to at least 6 a.m. Because it seems, if it's right that it's the full operation starts somewhere after 6 a.m. I mean, we could at least make the concession to sort of have that more dimmed down lighting further into the actual daylight.
The way the level of lighting has been agreed is that it's a combination of, there's a requirement to provide lighting overnight to provide security for the CCTV system. And then while the site is in more active use, it becomes more of a site safety, pedestrian safety, people walking to the vans, because I think the vans create more shadow perhaps than a car does. So that's why there's a difference between the 20 sort of going up to the 50% to allow those sort of more limited, people, drivers coming back later in the evening, for example, and the lights coming up on a sort of a grid system. And that was the basis. The basis that it was put to us was the basis of how the operator considered they needed the lighting to work. So that's how it was put to us, really.
But again, just to add to that, if members are concerned that that doesn't provide sufficient protection, then those you can change those hours, but you do need to kind of take into account the context of the site, and that there is an operational kind of chemical factory between the application site and those neighbours that would be affected.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, sorry, as well, that the chemical site, I think it's got sort of old-fashioned sodium lights on it from observation, but also all of the lighting around the perimeter of the site will have has backlit shields on them. The lighting is LED lighting. It's horizontal, sort of downward facing, so it's set up to limit light spill to the minimum, and the lighting assessment that's been provided, which has been looked at by environmental health colleagues, demonstrates by the lighting would dissipate by the time it reaches residential properties over that distance, with an intervening land use and trees, etc., etc. So that was the basis of the conclusion.
Councillor Simonetti.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't actually indicated, but I do want to speak, so that's nice you to say so. I am worried about this timing business, like other people have said, and it's not just about the fact that this site has a chemical plant between it and some other houses. We've also heard about another 1,000 houses being built nearby. And if it did move to a 24-hour operation, and Amazon, I think the word ambitious has been used, and I think that they're really ambitious.
We're just on questions at the moment, Jane.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So my question is, do we think that we should put some sort of a time limit on this then, as has been suggested we could do? Because I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, we've got Councillor Stutely, then Councillor Sands.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just my first question is just to expand on Councillor Ryan's question earlier. This clearly is going to be a high energy user, and we've got a 3.1 hectare site here. And from what I can see, not one single solar panel. While I know that a site of this size wouldn't generate enough solar power to charge all the vehicles, and most of them will be out during the day, it could help to mitigate. And if members search for solar car parks on Google, you'll get an idea of the kind of thing that I would like to see on a site like this. I think it lacks ambition, and with 9 units from the outset, that represents only 2.5% of the total potential capacity, which is negligible. So really my question is, has there been any discussions about solar panels at all, and why was it dismissed? And also why, can you clarify why we've only got 9 from the outset? Thank you.
Electricity company.
Yeah, in terms of there hasn't been any extensive discussions about electricity generation on the site. It's obviously they're trying to make the most efficient use of the site in terms of the number of vehicles they're able to park, store on that site, because it isn't actually accommodating the entirety of the fleet that they would like to, so space is of a premium, so to speak. I'm sort of vaguely aware that there are solar, you mentioned solar car parking. I'm not certain how that would work. I'm assuming it's within the surface of a car park. But the idea with this is that a delivery driver will be coming, possibly a high percentage of them will be coming in a vehicle and swapping that vehicle over. So this won't be an empty car park while the delivery drivers are out. It will have a number of vehicles parked within those spaces. So that may limit the ability to provide any generation within the site. In terms of the 9 active charging spaces, the application came into us with 1 space. We've negotiated with the applicant 9, and that's through not through a sort of a bidding war or anything. It's more of it's what capacity there is to the site at the moment. They need to provide lights, obviously, and power to those structures, and then what was left could power 9 spaces. They have got an order in with UK Power Networks to secure the required energy for the remainder of the spaces, based on, I think it's something like 2.5. I'll probably say that, give the wrong figure now, kilowatts per space. So they have an order in the UK Power Networks, and they're basically they'd then be at the hands of the utility company as and when that electricity supplies can be provided to the site.
Councillor Stoody, did you want to come back?
Yes, please. Yes, thank you for that. Just for clarity for members of the committee and the public watching, what I meant was overhead solar panels, like a sort of a carport system that provides energy, and not only energy but protection for vehicles as well. And if you say that there are going to be plenty of vehicles on site during the day, that there is an even greater perhaps potential need for it. And nine charging points to begin with. A company with an aspiration for a complete fleet, bringing just nine units, which is 2.5% of the total, is derisory. And surely a solar panel system would have mitigated that and provided from the outset. I understand the logistical reasons for only having 9, but from the outset they could have improved on that considerably. I would like
Councillor Sands.
Thank you, Chair. Sarah Hinchcliffe inadvertently answered my question while she gave her little talk a couple of minutes ago.
Thank you. Councillor Neil, you indicated.
Can
I put something in the chat, but that's
okay.
Chair, can I just say to members, please don't use chat. If you've got anything to say, you should be saying it to everyone. However, we do have, sorry, I'm just having a scroll through the chat. Our agent just wants to clarify a point on the deliveries, etc. That has been raised, and that might be something where we are in committee. I would be running up the room, or perhaps getting Sarah to have a quick word with the agent. So at the appropriate time, can we bring the agent in just to clarify that point about deliveries? Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Lovick and Councillor Maxwell.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I put something in the chat. I did ask Jackie, at what point can I propose changing conditions?
Yep.
Again, this is at the moment we're on questions.
Yeah, I just want to know.
And members need to know that. And obviously, if you want to make a proposal, that would be after the end of questions. But please don't use chat, because it makes it, we need to be transparent. But it is quite handy to know that the agent would like to come in, because obviously that is something that is at the chair's discretion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lovick's trying to get in. I'll take Councillor Maxwell first, and then Councillor Lowick.
Thank you. I've got 2 questions. First of all, a very small one. Page 45, the welfare cabin has only got 3 toilets. None of them, they're all unisex. And is this for use for all these drivers, 400 and odd at a time? And does that combine? Have you checked the health and safety and welfare of people's at work to see if that's enough? Because I don't think it is. My other question is, all these 353 vans will have to cross the road every morning to go to the distribution. So we'll be sending 350 new vehicles across the A140. Is that correct? Thank you.
In terms of the toilet provision, this was raised with the applicant. My understanding is it's not a workplace as such, so I don't think that there is relevant legislation that would dictate the number of toilet, the amount of toilet provision that would need to be provided on the site. The number that he's provided is based entirely on the operator's known requirements, basically, how they operate at other sites and what the toilet demand is. So that's what's informed the size of that welfare cabin and the number of toilet facilities that are provided within there. In order to get from this site to the distribution warehouse,
sorry, Sarah, can I just butt in? I just noticed that Councillor Peake isn't on his screen, Jackie.
Oh yes. Councillor Peake, are you about?
You're on mute, Jack.
Sorry, but I mean, I can't, I'm trying to minute and I
There
can't
he
do
is.
that. That's why members have to, if they're in the room, they have to declare that when they vote. Okay.
Councillor Peake, have you heard everything what's been going on?
You're on mute, Councillor.
Yeah, that is why when you go to the vote, each member needs to declare that they've been there present in the room for all time.
I've been present. I only went in the hallway because my phone rang. I just picked it up to see who was calling. That was all.
Okay.
I didn't hear what was going on, but
well,
can
I just say you should try and turn your phones off if you can and treat it as if you're in a committee room.
Okay.
Sorry,
we've got
Sarah.
Councillor Lovick.
Yes. I don't know whether Sarah had finished. Sorry, Chair. I cut her off.
Sorry, yeah, just Councillor Maxwell's second point. Yes, there'll be a short journey between this site and the distribution warehouse. It will involve crossing the ring road and the traffic light controlled junction. They do
that anyway, don't they?
The delivery drivers do tend to, from sort of my observations, they do tend to congregate at various places around that part of the city and the estate. Some of them do sort of park up in this estate and cross that junction. And the Highway Authority have provided comments in terms of the suitability of, you know, the site in terms of the access, the visibility and the capacity at that junction, which was improved about 4 years ago when the Wicks development went in. It was upgraded and improved to take additional capacity for the whole employment area to be built out.
Councillor Lovick.
Yes, I think it would be helpful if the officer could explain how the arrangements are going to be for the operatives coming to work and actually where they leave their cars, because we've actually got a condition in 12 that says that there will be a traffic regulation order for no waiting restrictions on Helsden Hall Road. So does that mean that they leave the cars on the road and go to their vans, or do they actually take their vehicles into the site and park them and then pick up their vans?
They move the van and put the car in where the van was.
Yeah, so the idea is that the drivers come, this is their base to pick up their vehicle. They will swap they will take their delivery vehicle out of its space and put their vehicle, if they come in one, because they might cycle there or walk there, into that space. The idea behind the traffic regulation order was as caution based on how it operates at the moment in the area. I think because their delivery slots are very finely tuned, let's say, the drivers tend to turn up early so as not to miss their slot, and therefore they wait around in various streets in the area so they can get to the warehouse at exactly the time they need to. Now, Highways were concerned that if there was any restriction on them going into this site at any particular time, they might still turn up early and park out on the road. So that the traffic regulation order would prevent parking on Helsden Hall Road. But my understanding is, they will have access to the site to they get given a delivery slot and they will turn up in time to pick up their vehicle and get across to the warehouse and park their vehicle within the site.
Thank you.
Right, I've got two more people asking, and then I'm going to move the recommendation. We'll go on to discussion. So, firstly, these two councillors for questions. Councillor Samaisi, then Councillor Neal.
you, Chair. I'm wondering about the little basic hut for the guard, the security guard. We've heard that it's not exactly a place of work, but it's a place of work for them. I don't know if we can ask this, but do we know that that's going to be kind of a comfortable place for that employee to work in? Will it be heated, ventilated and so forth?
There's electricity provision to it. I'm not certain of the source of heating. It does have its own, if it looked at the layout, it has its own toilet within there and a small sort of kitchenette facility. My understanding is there'd be a couple of guards on two shifts, so they sort of swap over, and that's their, that is their domain within there with all the facilities that they would need during their shift.
Councillor Neil? You turned yourself off, Councillor.
Just a clarification. The vans that will be parked there, are they owner-driver vans or are they Amazon vans? Because I assumed that they were, like most Amazon deliveries, are done by owner-drivers, so they wouldn't come in a car, they're just driving the van. So do we know what numbers we're talking about of ones that are owned by Amazon and ones that are owner-drivers?
The idea is this is to provide an entirely Amazon fleet. So it would, the vans, my understanding is they've got a small electric van provision at the moment. They were definitely delivering in my area before Christmas with an electric vehicle, Mercedes Sprinter vans, I think they are. And it would prevent the need for drivers to have their own. I think at the moment they have their own vehicle, or they can hire a vehicle from Amazon if they don't have their own vehicle. This will be an Amazon fleet, badged up in their blue-grey colour with, Amazon written on the side of it.
Okay, I've got Councillor Stootley put his hand up. I'll take him and then I will move to the bill. Councillor, move to the recommendation. Councillor Stootley.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've got a question on a slightly different subject. This site, again, it's 3-hectare site, and it appears to only be offering one job across 2 shifts. What would be the normal expectation for a site of this, and how much importance should we give that, given that the local plan suggests this should be an employment site? So just to recap, there's just one additional job, or 2 if you count both shifts from this site. And also, just before I get an answer to that, I believe the Amazon model for the vans that they own is that they basically the drivers buy into that. So I would actually like to know what happens to existing owner drivers. Do they have to buy in again?
Sarah or David?
I'm not certain about the last part of the question there. I'm not certain what arrangement there is between Amazon and its drivers in that respect. The first part of the question was hopefully sort of touched upon or dealt with in the principal part of my report. Yes, it's an employment site, and officers consider that this as being providing a supporting function to support the operation of the delivery distribution warehouse. So it's helping that warehouse to work more efficiently. So it's helping to sustain the jobs. Yes, the jobs are already there in that respect, but it's helping to sustain the jobs and I suppose keep the business operating from that location. So it's seen as supporting in that respect. In terms of the number of employees that an alternative type of use on that site could provide, I suppose it's how long is a piece of string. It could be a large warehouse with storage in it that with not much going on, perhaps like the Viking storage warehouse at the other end of the, a small number of employees. We've got large areas there that have got car sales and rental, which will have just a small number of employees there. So it really very much depends. It's an employment designation with the traditional B1, B2, B8 uses. So you could have anything from a quite high intensity use to fairly low intensity in that respect.
Thank you. So what emphasis in terms of planning should we put on the sort of lack of employment provision from this site?
If I can kind of come back, I mean, the policy covering the allocation, the number of it supports an existing employer in the area, and that's one of the things that you need to attach weight to. It also supports and enables them to kind of move towards an electric fleet. It doesn't provide everything that they need to do that. It provides them with the opportunity to do that. So you need to attach weight to that. Whether or not you could get an employment use on the site that provides a higher jobs density than this use does. I mean, as Sarah says, some of the employment density provided by different employment uses does differ, but they kind of fall within the kind of general B class uses, which from a planning point of view are employment uses. So I mean, our view is that it complies with that element of the policy, in that it does provide some jobs. It also supports existing jobs, and then there's another area of weight to be attached to the opportunities it provides for the fleet transition. Whilst the report acknowledges that it doesn't facilitate at the moment the whole fleet provision.
2.5%.
Yes, and I think the reason for that has already been set out in the document. I do think members kind of need to look at this as it's not the answer, but it's part of the answer, and this application in its own right is kind of part of the puzzle that needs to be in place in order to allow certainly this particular user to electrify their fleet, and that is capable of attracting material weight. Can I just come back on the delivery issues? I know that we've kind of talked about and the timings. Can I just ask Sarah just to kind of to kind of take us through what we've been told about the hours of operation? And I think that they are already set out in the committee report, but just to make sure that we're all kind of understanding what the what we've already been told about the application. I think, Sarah, they're covered in paragraph 76, aren't they? Where,
yeah.
But could you just kind of take us through that?
Yeah, it comes up in various parts of the report, but the transport statement set out, and in the transport section, and starting off at paragraph 76, is based on deliveries from the distribution centre. So start at 6. Well, their slots start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m, that's when the drivers would go and pick up their parcels to go out to various parts of Norwich and Norfolk as a whole to go and do their deliveries. And then based on the amount of parcels that they take out, packages they take out, they then come back to the warehouse generally between 4 and 7 in the evening. I did ask about later deliveries, because like I say, we've all, especially at busier times, had perhaps deliveries later into the evening. I was told that something like, I think it was like 93% of their deliveries are within those timeframes that I've just mentioned to you. And then there will be some peripheral ones that will perhaps have been delivering quite far from the warehouse, and then they have to come back and bring the vehicle back. They have to come back to the distribution warehouse anyway with any undelivered parcels. So they wouldn't have to just travel back and put their van away. If, you know, as a matter of course, they would generally have to come back to the warehouse. And that's the basis. So in order to start at 6, if somebody had a 6 o'clock slot, like I say, they're quite finely timed, they'd need to go and pick up their vehicle, and therefore the assessment is assuming that drivers might turn up from around 5:30 to allow them to pick up their vehicle and get across to the warehouse.
Can I just ask a question before we move on? 350 vehicles, have they got 350 already, or is this a new 350 coming online, or will this spaces be cleared up in the city, in the estates where they're usually parked, and so they move on to one place?
Yeah, so my understanding is it's to it's a change. It's to provide their own fleet. So there are no, the warehouse operation will not change. They're not expanding it, extending it, or increasing operation, is my understanding. So the delivery vehicles are already there in some shape or form via owner drivers, basically. And this is, they will, like I say, come and get in an Amazon vehicle as part of Amazon's commitment to provide an electric delivery fleet.
Okay, thank you. Sandra, is that a question?
Yeah, it's kind of a follow-on question, because basically our assumption that they won't start operating a 24-hour system is based on how their warehouse works, and I understand that. Is there a condition on the warehouse that prevents them from a 24-hour working? Because that would then, you know, then we wouldn't have to necessarily need to consider condition for here if it's attached to the working of the warehouse. However, if there is no condition on the warehouse, I mean, I see what people say, and I think there is a potential that, you know, given the shift to more and more online shopping, that there might be it might be drop-off points where they don't have to actually knock on people's doors, and they might be then frequented at night and things like that. So I think there is, looking further into the future, the potential, and we don't want to set this up for conflict in the future. So could you clarify that, Sarah or David?
My understanding is there would be no restriction of hours of operation on the existing warehouse. It's a historic building there. It wasn't built for Amazon's purposes, if you see what I mean. It had occupiers previous to it. I'm not aware of there being any hours operation, because the distribution warehouse may very well work into the night.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is to, Jackie.
Sorry, Chair, we have had, obviously, if we were in a committee, I would be whispering or putting notes in front of the officers, but the agent has just, I just want to check that the agent is satisfied that we've covered the points about hours of operation and
Nick.
And the 24/7. It is at your discretion, Chair.
Yes, if that helps us out, I don't mind at all. Nick, not too long, though.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, just to clarify, so the site will be operating exactly as explained in the application submission. It will not operate in the full extent over a 24/7 period. Clearly, the operator won't be delivering parcels to residents in the middle of the night, but a 24/7 operation is required for site security to protect the new electric fleet. And in instances of peak times, such as Christmas, when the site may need to operate slightly later, but the majority of the time, it will not be operating in the full extent over a 24/7 period. However, we cannot accept a condition restricting that for the reasons I've stated, including site security.
Thank you. Well, the recommendation is to approve. I'll move that. Have I got a seconder for that?
I would like to make an amendment first.
You have to make an amendment after I move this. You can make
sorry,
one now,
I
but I won't
understood
make
what
no
Jackie
difference.
said then. Okay.
Yep. Have I got a seconder? Recommendation to approve. Thank you, Councillor Sands. We move on to discussion. Anyone want to go first? Councillor Neil, you said you want to move something?
Yeah, I would like to put restrictions on the operating hours, because everybody's talking about the model of what it is now. And we know in my lifetime, you know, how things have changed, and in the next 5 years, it could be completely different. And I think what Councillor Bogline has found out now is that an old condition or non-condition of opening hours at the warehouse, basically we're stuck with now. If they want to run at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we have no restrictions on it. So this is the opportunity to put restrictions on the site opening hours, because the applicant has the right at a later stage to come back to the planning authority and ask for changes to it. But if we don't put any restrictions on now, we don't have a right to then put restrictions on them. I think the point that the gentleman made about they need 24-hour access for security is spurious, because all premises can have security 24 hours a day. That doesn't come under conditions of opening hours. So if they need somebody to be there or walk around there to make sure everything is safe, that is not operating. That is a security issue, which is quite normal, even for a supermarket that has a restriction of closing hours. They can have security people checking.
Could I come back on that point at some point, Chair?
No.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Councillor Neil said. I mean, that if the main issue is about operating hours is the impact upon residential amenity in terms of the vehicles coming and going and the lighting on the site, then we could come up with a condition that didn't prevent them from actually having a security presence on the site.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a right of appeal against conditions, but as Councillor Neil says, if you don't put them on in the first place, then you can't go and back on and put them on retrospectively. So
I would like to recommend that hours of 5 in the morning till 11 in the evening, which would take into account the need for things like seasonal extra time. I would think that's the sort of hours that we put restrictions on supermarkets so that areas don't have traffic 24/7.
And about 4 or 5 people put thumbs up, and so I need someone to say second it. Councillor Bergerline, not do yet. Right, we move on to this subject about the
Chair,
opening hours. Yeah.
You've had a recommendation for an additional condition. Are members all in favour of that, so that we take it as part of the motion, or do we need to have a bit more discussion and then come back to this motion?
Yeah.
But at the moment, we've got an
Is there
amendment.
any members against this recommendation? Councillor Stewart, are you against this recommendation?
No, I'm not necessarily against the recommendation.
Well,
I would like to propose that slightly earlier at 10 o'clock. For the reason that 11 o'clock is too late, especially during the week. You know, from a obviously planning is different to licensing, but if on a licensing application, 11 o'clock is seen as pretty late in the day for midweek operations.
Can I just say I would support the 11 o'clock one because it's not a fixed building, and if anyone needed to get some petrol in their van or fill up with electricity to get home or something like that, you actually stop them after 10 o'clock. So 11 o'clock would give them a bit of time to get back home. So I would support the 11 o'clock one. Is there anyone else against the 11 o'clock? Can we take a vote on this then, please? All those in favour.
Sorry, Chair. Just before you move to the vote, can we just be clear that the wording of the condition that we come up with would allow them to retain an on-site security presence?
Yes,
I'll be very happy with that.
Thank you.
Yep. All those in favour, please show.
Chair.
Oh, we're going for talking again.
I would just like to clarify with Councillor Button. At one point, you dipped out of the meeting.
Yes, I lost my connection, so I missed a bit before councillors made the recommendation for an extra additional. I'm losing the words now. I just missed Councillor Neil's piece. Previous to that, when David was speaking.
Can I suggest that you don't vote on this piece, but be allowed to vote at the end?
Well, no, Chair.
No?
I just want to clarify, if it was just the moving of the motion, then we just need to clarify before we go to a vote that Councillor Sally Button understands that it was only for a second.
Yeah.
And she was instantly put back into the meeting. So thank you.
Okay, we lost Councillor Lubbock now as well.
I'm here.
We can't see you, Councillor.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Right. What I'll do is I will go through. So, Councillor Button, I think you only dipped out for a small time, in which case I think you just missed the moving of the motion, which was to restrict the hours of operation, but not security, between the hours of
5 in the morning and 11 at night.
5 in the morning and 11 at night.
Yeah. Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
I will now go for call names then, please. Thank you. So Councillor Driver, please.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, and please, when you are voting, you're declaring that you have not.
And I have been there all the time.
Exactly. Councillor Maxwell?
I've been here all the time. I'm voting for.
Councillor Bergline?
Been here all the time and voting for.
And we are voting on the amendment. Councillor Batten?
Been here for all of one, except for 1 second, and I'm voting in favour.
Which we have gone back on. Thank you. Councillor Oliver?
And I've been here all the time and I'm voting in favour of the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Lubbock?
Yes, I've been here all the time. I'm sorry you can't see me, but I would like to support the amendment, the condition. Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Neil?
I've been here all the time and support the amendment condition.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
I have been here all the time and support the amendment.
Councillor Peake?
I've been here most of the time, apart when I got my phone, but I was hearing and I do support the motion.
Could I just ask that you, yeah, thank you. Councillor Sands?
I have heard all proceedings, been present all the time, and do support this amendment to the motion. Yeah.
Councillor Samesi?
Here throughout, voting for this amendment.
Thank you. And Councillor Stootley?
Thank you. I've been present and for.
Thank you. And can I just, oh yes, it was moved by Councillor Driver and seconded by Councillor.
Now,
Councillor
Neil.
But who, I just wanted to double check.
Councillor Neil moved.
Yeah, Councillor Neil moved, but who seconded that?
Councillor Bergline.
Councillor Bergline, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So that has been carried to recommend that condition. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, we'll carry on. Is there any more discussions on the site? Councillor Stootley first, Councillor Sands, and then Councillor Bergline, and then I'll get to Councillor Peake and Councillor Neil afterwards.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was going to be a question actually, and I'm not sure.
Fine.
I'm not sure whether the conditions prevent another operator from coming in and taking over the site, as well as the operation across the road. Is this connected only to Amazon or only to the sites involved?
That's just to the site.
Yeah, condition 3 in the list, secures restricting it to use in association with the warehouse at Unit 2, Cayley Close. So at the moment, Amazon are in there, but if somebody else was to go into that unit, then they would benefit from that condition.
Okay, so but basically that means that this site could be used by any other operator who also had access to the other site. So therefore, it could be fairly quickly converted for a distribution company with HGVs or other vehicles. Is that correct?
No.
Or garage, or a tile place, or window place, or anything.
Well, it has to be, yeah, it has to be in association with that specific unit. It's not an open-ended, any vehicles for a site on the other side of Norwich, for example. It's a supporting function to that warehouse.
Okay, so but it could be HGVs potentially, and if that's the case, is it tight enough, that particular condition?
Well, I mean, I take your point, but I think the layout that's been approved is pretty tight for HGVs, and I don't think that HGVs would be able to operate on the site as currently laid out. So I think technically you're right, but I think in reality they wouldn't be able to operate from the site without significant alterations to the proposal.
Okay, well, there could be other vehicles rather than HGVs. Perhaps that was a bad example.
Drones,
helicopters.
Well, yes, or a fleet of non-electric vans. Although it does appear that it's going to be a fleet of non-electric vans, apart from 2.5% anyway.
Well, I mean, that point is covered by some of the other conditions, that they would still have to install the infrastructure, and then they would for the charging points. And I take your point. I mean, I hear what you feel about the number of charging points, but they also have to install the charging points. So there would still be the potential to deliver the benefits set out in the report.
Okay, who did I ask next? Councillor Sands.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, a statement. I think it's better to have vans at a depot rather than on urban streets. So in that sense alone, I welcome this. Two other things which don't change my attitude towards this. I'm approving this application. The first one concerns lighting. There's quite a lot on lighting on pages 56 and 57, paragraph 68 onwards. One of the things I would like to say, as I said, it doesn't change anything, but it might be worth consideration by planning and by Nick Bowen himself, is that with LED lighting, white LED lighting is very obtrusive, and I've forwarded a couple of articles to members of planning and also our planning department concerning the use of amber LED lighting, which is better for wildlife, better for nighttime light pollution, and it's only a case of changing the acrylic covers on night lighting. That's just something for future consideration. And the second thing is this vehicle to grid technology. As I said, doesn't change anything. Nick Bowen might put this as a consideration for future development, and that is Greenwich Council, when they changed their refuse vehicles over to a fully electric fleet, when they park their vehicles up at night time, the vehicles discharge any residual power back into the grid, therefore making money. And then when they then charge using the lower rate, which is where the money saving comes into things. Again, as I said, doesn't change things. It's just there for consideration. Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor Berglund.
I agree with both what Councillor Sands, Councillor Ryan and Councillor Stutley have mentioned, that it feels like this is a massive missed chance where, you know, vehicle to grid could be put in there. So it's perfect because they stand there at night when actually household energy use is highest. So, you know, why not do it? You'd even make some money from it. And similarly, you know, why not have solar panels? I just don't understand it. I mean, that would be a long-term investment as well if you make that investment in transitioning to electric vehicles. So I don't know if we can maybe, with our sentiment, try and if Nick can go back to his clients and maybe, you know, make it clear to them that they are missing half of the point. The other point is obviously very welcome, and I think the considerable investment of, I think it's 1.5 million or something into that infrastructure gives me confidence that they will, you know, move from 9 to the full 300 or something electric charging points. So I don't doubt that. And similarly, I also think that considerable investment will prevent any other fleet to purchase that site which is not electric, because that just wouldn't make financial sense either. So I will be voting for it because I think it's part of the puzzle being solved. But but I still think, you know, that they could have gone a lot further.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Lovett back later. Councillor Samaisi first.
Thank you, Chair. Just going on from previous points, really, and I'm still thinking about that poor security guard on a job share, those two people. Can we have a solar panel on the roof of their hut and a little radiator for them, please?
That make a noise, they won't be able to listen to the radio. Councillor Ryan.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just reiterate what I said earlier? This is a golden opportunity. It really is for vehicle to grid technology. There's going to be hundreds of vans on this site that create an enormous amount of energy. And it's a two-way thing. The technology is already there. Councillor Stewart is right. They haven't been ambitious enough on this. They could have thought a long way forward on this. 9 EV charging points to start with is not enough. I'm glad we pressured them to go from 1 to 9, which was pitiful. I'd double it. I'd have at least, to start with, at least double the number of charging points in. But I will be voting in favour of the project. Shopping habits are changing. Nothing we can really do about it at the moment. I'd much rather see the money go to the city centre, but there's nothing I can do about that. Like Councillor Neil, but I'm happy about Amazon and taxation. Again, there's not a lot I can do about that from here, but I will be voting in favour of the project. And I urge Amazon to be more ambitious with this. Don't miss this opportunity. It could be really something special here.
Councillor Peake.
I know Helston Hall Road and that area really well because it's in my ward, and I suppose Sandra does as well. With the barbed wire there and the derelict field, as you drive along there, it is a complete mess. And I like with the landscaping and the trees they're going to plant, I think that'll make that area more attractive to drive along. So I'll be back in the application.
Okay, I've got Councillor Stutely, then Councillor Neil.
What about Councillor Lubbock?
Oh yes, Councillor Lubbock first, okay?
Thank you. While I can speak, I will. I'm disappointed that the county council didn't see fit to try and keep the traffic away from Helston Low Road. It is a very, very narrow road, and at the moment, with the distribution depot on the other side of the ring road, I suspect most vehicles come out of the distribution depot and actually do use the ring road. But now that the new parking is on the other side of the ring road, there'll be lots of shortcuts taken, and they will go down the low road. They will use the bridge at Helston, which is, you know, single file. It's just a potential, electric cars or not, they are still vehicles, and it's the number of vehicles on those very narrow roads that bothers me. And I think it is an amenity issue for those people living there, and it would have been much better for the county council to have made some sort of a concession to those people living in the area, that really these vehicles should come out of the depot, turn left and left onto the ring road, and then they would have taken them away from unsuitable roads. And I'm very disappointed with the county council. I know there's nothing one can do about it because they've said it's all okay, but I do not think it is okay, electric vehicles or not, and I'm disappointed with that. But I am pleased that we're going to have some operating hours. At least then the residents will know the general hours of operating. There should be less light impact outside those hours of operating. And if they want to change the hours, then they can come back to the planning committee and ask for a change. But we're at least giving some amenity to those residents who live nearby, that there will not be comings and goings throughout the night, and it will start from 5 o'clock. But I will be voting in favour of it.
Councillor Stutely, I have got you, Councillor Button.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't repeat items that I've already covered and others, but I agree with those points. I'm concerned here about the transition to the new vans, and especially how that will affect existing drivers, self-employed drivers who are amongst the hardest working of all self-employed people, and they don't earn a huge amount of money from it. So I'm concerned about working conditions of those people. And obviously, I believe that this is not just a missed opportunity, but actually it's a minimum requirement that Amazon are hitting here. And £1.5 million sounds like a big investment but to the one of the largest companies in the world, it's just a drop that could potentially just be written off. So I'm concerned about the future of the site, especially with only 2.5% of capacity.
Councillor Neil?
Yeah, just I think most people have covered what I wanted to. I totally agree. A missed opportunity. If I was marking it as an exam paper, I'd be putting could do better. And just on Councillor Lubbock's point, the vans will not turn right when they come out of there, because that would not really need to. They have to turn left to go and pick up the goods in the first place. So they're only going to be coming onto the ring road where they're coming onto it now. So there would be no necessity for the vans to turn right. Possibly personal cars, yes, but not vans. But what my point I wanted to make was on the landscaping and ecology. I was pleased to see that the officers had changed it from a concrete desert to a bit more greenery, but what they put in the report doesn't actually make me feel great. On page 49, paragraph 21 and 23, we have words like mitigation and enhancement is mostly adequate, not even acceptable or great. And then paragraph 23, we have proposals offer barely adequate mitigation. So it's like, it's absolutely, you know, they've got an opportunity, they could do better. The officers have done the best they can to get more out of it, but Amazon are not really that worried about the environment or biodiversity. It's only paying lip service. So disappointed, but I can't see that as a reason that we could turn it down. Okay.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Chair.
Councillor Button, sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, that was basically similar sort of thing to Councillor Neil has just said. The vehicles coming off of that car park are going to be turning left to the distribution centre, so they won't be coming down the ring road in their hundreds, but along the main ring road, but they will not be going back across that way because they've already got their delivery routes, which will be the same as they are now when they leave the warehouse. So on that aspect and everything else, I shall be voting in favour. Thank you.
Okay. I'm definitely voting in favour as well. I think it's a good idea. The only problem I get is, which we can't do nothing about, it's not planning laws at all, is how the employees get paid and work. The only thing they're going to do is pay extra petrol money to get to the car park to pick up their van, save Amazon's money because they ain't got to pay for that bit. And away they go. So, but I will be voting in favour of this. It's a lot closer to the warehouse, and it will keep vans off the streets of Norwich to be parked in the evening and stuff. So that's one of the main points. I will move to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation to approve, please show with the what they call it at the end, the new bit we put on.
The condition relating to the hours of operation.
The condition of hours of operation. All those
And also, Chair, and also the revised conditions in the supplementary report.
Yes. Okay, I'll gather you're going through one by one, Jackie.
I'm afraid so, Chair. Thank you. Councillor Driver.
Yes, I've been here all the while and I'm voting in favour.
Councillor Maxwell.
I've been here all the time and I'm voting in favour.
Councillor Bogerline.
I've been here for the entire item and I'm voting in favour.
Councillor Button. Councillor Button, you're mute.
Hello.
Councillor Button's frozen by the looks on it.
Go back to her.
I will do, but sorry, it is quite complicated doing the voting, and so I do like to keep it in order because otherwise.
For the entire item, as apart from.
There you go. Did you get that?
Lovely. Thank you, which we went over again for your benefit. Thank you. So that's your voting for. Councillor Oliver, please.
I've been here for the entire item and I'm voting in favour. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lubbock.
Been here for the entire item and I'm voting in favour.
Councillor Neil.
Been here all the time and voting in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan.
Been here the entire time and I'm voting in favour.
Councillor Peake.
I've been here for the whole time, but as explained before, and I will be voting in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Sands.
I've been here for the entire proceedings and I am voting in favour.
Councillor Samesi.
Here throughout, voting in favour.
And Councillor Stootley.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been here throughout and I'm going to abstain.
Abstain. Thank you very much. Chair, that has been carried. Thank you. And that concludes the business.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I thank everyone for turning up to the meeting today? Next meeting, David, I did ask for an update. I gather we didn't have time to do it over the Christmas period. Can we make sure we have one at the next meeting?
That will be coming to your next meeting, Chair.
Absolutely. Did you want to quickly say something?
Yeah, just it might be helpful for members to know, those that are using laptops, if you press your space bar while you're if you're about to speak, it unmutes you briefly while you're holding it down. It might help those that are struggling with their comms.
An excellent point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the end of the meeting. Thanks everyone for turning up. Nice and quick today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.